right, welcome to the radio show here on the JH6 channel. I definitely appreciate you guys watching. Today, we're going to talk about training, and we're going to talk about some training that we think is beneficial. You know, how to be that weapon. A lot of times we rely on firearms, we rely on our Glock, we rely on our rifles, but I think it comes down to that person's situational awareness, or that person's mindset of being a weapon, and not allowing somebody else to make them a victim. That's what I think. Just the guns are just a tool. So with that being said, what we're going to do is that we're going to talk about it a little bit. We're going to talk about some things of prepping, training, guns, what to do, how to do it, and things like that. So I got two of the most famous people here on YouTube. Nick, go ahead, bro. Do your intro. Tell us about your channel and Facebook and all that stuff.
All right. My name is Nick. I am the host of the Practically Tactical live show here on YouTube, as well as podcast. And yes, you can find us on Facebook as well, facebook.com/practicallytactical, or Instagram. But basically, for those that might not be familiar with my channel, I do a live show called Practically Tactical. We usually talk all firearms, have a lot of firearms instructors on that show, or talk about how terrible Tauruses are. So that's pretty much sums up the three main categories of my show. But for those that are out there interested, swing by and have a look. If you like what you see, so hit subscribe.
Cool, very cool. We actually, me and you and the Alabama Owens and a bunch of guys, we go way back. So to the beginning. So we got Mac. Not very new. You already been doing a couple of videos on YouTube, but tell us about your channel, Facebook, about your future plans and all that good stuff.
Yeah, to date I got about 35 videos out, but I'm opening a small training center down in Nashville, Tennessee, called Battle Drill 6, and basically we're working on firearms training, anything from pistol, rifle, shotgun, and working up into to getting into some long distance shooting here, hopefully in the future. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We just actually moved down here about 3 weeks ago, so we're kind of going through all the hoops for Tennessee, trying to get things set up. And I've been doing the YouTube thing now for, well, about 9 months now, realistically, fairly actively, anyways. And so that's about it. I don't know how to do any of the fancy stuff that y'all do by putting my little name at the bottom of this, so I'm gonna leave it like this for now.
Don't worry about that, man.
Just say your ops were so dark you can't put your name at the bottom.
Yeah. No, I had it all uploaded. I couldn't get it to work.
Yeah, I actually have mine, and I don't know what happened to it. But all right, so make sure, as always, guys, just a couple announcements. Make sure you check out the channel. I've been releasing videos pretty much every single day, or every 2 days at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And you guys know every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to release one of those videos that I call radio show, because I couldn't come out with a cooler name. So all right, so again, I'm gonna put the channel links, and I'm gonna put the Facebook links and all that in the description box. So make sure you check it out. So with that being said, there's a lot of crime, and we know that, you know, there's active shooter situations at the mall, at the movies, you know, Walmart, any place that you go, there's a possibility that you could find yourself in some type of confrontation. You know, we saw the riots down in Ferguson. It's just crazy out there. And like I said many different times, I think it comes down to our responsibility to protect ourselves. And a lot of guys are depending on the police officers. I don't know why, but I think it is our responsibility to have a plan to protect ourselves. So with that said, where do you think we should start in this plan? You know, either Nick or Mac, what do you think is the beginning or the plan to protect yourself? If you don't know anything about guns, you don't know anything about anything, you know, it's a lot of people out there looking for information. Where should they start?
I think if you're coming and you're saying, hey, this is a guy, he's got no firearms, no training, no essentially mindset for this at all, then the first things he probably needs to start with is going to a quality pistol course and just getting a baseline fundamental of kind of getting in this tactical mindset, getting in this mindset to be ready to defend yourself and be ready and be prepared for that situation as it arises.
Okay. What do you think, Nick? You being working in a gun store, where do you think going to that class for the first time? I mean, a Glock 17 is a pretty cool gun, but for a person that doesn't know anything about gun, a full-size Glock 17 or even a 45 or 40, whatever, it could be pretty scary. So what do you think should be that first gun that person should buy?
Well, again, and there are I just sold a lady one today as a Christmas present for her husband that they've never owned a firearm. They just bought their first one today. Now, with prefacing all of that, I mean, my job is to sell guns, so I do that. But I also preface that, as you talked about, we are the weapon, the firearm is a tool. And I use that line all the time in the shop, especially with new gun owners, because there is a lot of people buying firearms for the first time right now. There are a lot for self-defense, home defense, concealed carry, whatever. But I tell people that before they go down this road, if they're going to start this road, the first thing I tell them is, are you willing to use this to defend your life and yourself? Because if you are not, then anything else you do from now is going to be a waste of money. If you're going to use a firearm and pull it out, but then not have the courage to defend your wife, your family, whatever, then you've just empowered the other person and probably gave them a firearm. That's the first thing I tell people is, and again, too, I'm not saying that don't buy this, but if you need to go down a road to get there, then you need to look inside yourself, and that's kind of what I talk to people about among a lot of things. Is if you're going to go down this road, then you have to commit to it. It is a lifestyle, especially when it comes to concealed carry. So again, like you talked about there, it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking, it's a proactive approach in your daily life in regards to defending your home, your family.
Yeah. No, and I wholeheartedly agree with you on that, Nick. And that's if you ever read with Musashi in the Book of Five Rings, he talks about how he doesn't have a favorite weapon, that any weapon is his weapon, and that's kind of the point that he's going for with that, is that that the person, that the warrior or whatever the hell it is you want to call him, the operator, use that term. I know you like that. So the person is the weapon there. Whatever's in his hand, whatever implement he has, is simply just a tool for him to use. Much like we always hear the analogy of the carpenter and the hammer, and that he can easily drop that hammer, pick up a pair of pliers, and do a different task with it. And so I guess my point was saying that a tactical pistol course being a start with it is because it allows you to get into that mindset. So I probably should elaborate a little bit more on that, but it allows you to get into that mindset. Even if you're not carrying a gun, it still is that mindset and putting you into the perspective that something can happen.
No,
that's
sorry,
a pretty good point.
I'm going to jump in there because he hit on something too. We can totally build off each other. And something I tell people too is, a lot of people, and again, I was there the first time too, was, all right, so you get the gun, you go to the range. Taking a gun out and shooting it at a range at 7 yards, a paper target, is not training. It's not preparing yourself for anything. And trust me, I was there. Then you take your first class and you learn, so much. And that's something that I really try to push upon people as well. Is it's great to go to the range. Don't get me wrong. It's great to put, that helps. You can work on your fundamentals, all that type of stuff. But to push yourself to the next level, going to a range is not going to accomplish what a training needs to be done. And again, too, remember, all firearm skills are perishable. Absolutely perishable. I didn't go to the range. I didn't shoot a handgun for like a month, and I hated myself after going to the range because I wasn't doing as well as I did before. So it's a perishable skill. It is a learning process, and the road on that learning process never ends.
No, and you're absolutely right, Nick. And one of the problems that I see too is people, they want to they get their pistol and they say, okay, I'm ready to start carrying that gun now. And so what they end up doing is they say, okay, I'm just going to go take this and go to a what's the cheapest course I can go to? Okay, this guy offers a pistol course for $70. It's one day I can go get my license. And that's the absolute wrong answer. The course that you should be taking is a 2- and 3-day course that's $300, $400, $500, and going to take that one. And people will tell me that, hey, well, you're biased because you're making a profit off of that. And the reality of it is that I make a bigger profit off of you taking a 1-day CCW course because that requires no resources other than me being there. So it's in your best benefit and to take these 2-3-day courses and actually go out there and get a good fundamental in what you're doing, rather than that $70 course that doesn't really teach you anything other than the state requirements that, hey, this is how the gun points and this is how it's safe and blah, 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 all that bullshit that doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Jarhead. I'm sorry. I know you don't like
No, you're good, man. And I do agree with a couple of things. Is specifically talking about some type of confrontation, and Nick was talking about lifestyle. Once you carry a gun, there's always a gun, and we saw that in the case of Ferguson, where the guy, Michael Brown, people talk about him being disarmed. Yes, he was disarmed, but there's a gun there. I mean, once you have that firearm, you are responsible, and if you ever find yourself in a confrontation with anyone, there's a gun. So either you could use it, or somebody could take it away from you and use it on you. So you need to know that for sure. And I definitely agree with you when it comes down to training. I mean, when I went through my concealed carry, the guy talked for like maybe 4 hours. He gave his whole spiel, and then we actually went to his father. Actually, we took the CCW at a church, which is kind of funny. And then we came out of the church. We drove down like 3 minutes, and we went to the backyard of his dad's house. And the guy put some plywood back there, and it was pretty much point and shoot. And it was the first time that my wife shot a 40. I think it was, 40. I want to say. And it wasn't really training. It was get this gun and squish the trigger and shoot 30 rounds or however many rounds it was. So I go back to priority. Priority. I mean, you need, as a prepping tool, you need to save your money, and it may take you 6, 7 months, 10 months. I understand that it's expensive, and there are some classes out there ridiculous expensive, but it's also good classes with good instructors at a good price. I wouldn't say budget, but just good price. And if you want to learn some expertise and you want to learn how to shoot, move, and communicate, you're gonna have to pay somebody to teach you. And like I said. Yeah. I mean, I said this. YouTube is a great tool. You could come here and learn how to prep. You could come here and learn how to do multiple things. But especially if you find a good instructor, there's great instructors here that will teach you a lot of stuff. But nothing is going to replace formal training and an instructor that is going to criticize you and give you pointers and tell you how to move, and it's just going to give you tools. You just cannot replace formal training, man. And I'm an instructor of many different things. You just cannot replace that hands-on, and I think a lot of people are neglecting that side of the house.
No, I absolutely agree with you there. I mean, it's a very neglected side of the house because they bought the firearm, they buy the ammo, and now they think that they can do it themselves and train themselves. And you mentioned a key point is watching YouTube, and people watch YouTube, and the problem that comes with watching YouTube is, one, it makes you think that you have more knowledge than you actually do. But the bigger issue is that if you're brand new to firearms or brand new to any type of real tactical training, then you don't understand when people are giving you bad advice on YouTube. I saw a video today of some guy showing how to take fire from a vehicle, and he gets out of the vehicle, goes into the back seat of the vehicle while he's supposedly taking fire, and then jumps in and goes underneath the door, the back door of the vehicle to shoot him, shooting underneath the door. Like, it was just absolutely ridiculous. And the problem is that if you're new to shooting, then you're not necessarily going to know to pick that out as being wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. You got. I think picking an instructor is definitely critical. Now, I got to tell you, like even you opening a school and things like that, I think, is it okay? And I think it's okay, but just for the people, is it okay for you, for people to call you and be like, hey, man, what's your experience? Where are you coming from? And again, I talked about this. You don't have to be a military guy, but you could be a guy that's been shooting for 40 years and been through all this training. So is it okay for people to call you school and be like, hey, tell me about yourself, so I know who I'm training with. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and you should do that. I mean, I highly encourage you to do that with me, but you should do that with any school that you're going to go to. You should make sure, one, that instructor is qualified to do that, but also, two, see where his background's coming from. You and I were talking recently. I told you I went to a course that was taught by an old NYPD, he's a retired NYPD cop. And he taught some things that I didn't necessarily agree with. They weren't tactically wrong, but he taught some things that were just different because of his background, because he was coming from a law enforcement background as opposed to a military background. So things were just different. So it's important to know where those differences are going to lie and where I'm going to be thinking one way because of my military background, and somebody else is going to be thinking a little bit different.
Yeah. No, you got a good point. And like I said many times here on the channel, just because somebody does something different than you, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that it's just a different tool. So for me, I remember when I grew up in the Marine Corps, they tell you, hey, how are you going to become a leader? How are you going to, lead these guys in combat, or lead these guys? And a lot of times we see our former leaders, or the leaders that we have, and we say, all right, I like the traits from this guy, and I like the traits from this guy, and out of these three guys, I'm going to pick something, and this is going to be my style. So you definitely got to have your style, but, just because somebody does something differently doesn't mean it's wrong. But I guess at the same time, you have to make sure that something that you're learning is not completely neglection to, because like I seen that specifically that video, Nick, that you I think me and you talked about it with the guys, and I think it was in North Carolina, the dudes running in the car, and then some guy. Oh man, what was that video? They took it down pretty quick. You remember that?
The Carolina Tactical Out, the Xville.
Yeah.
Yeah, of people are downrange of live firearms and shooting with a car in front of it. Yeah. Well, and that's something we just hit on too. To self-plug, because it's a perfect segue, is the last show I did, episode 56, is we did so you want to be a firearms instructor, which for those out there be like, oh, well, that's kind of boring, I don't want to be a firearms instructor. But what it is a great window into a person saying, okay, what does a person have to go through to be a qualified firearms instructor? So as a person that is looking to take training, it gives you all this, that show basically gives you all the steps. Okay, how do I evaluate what my firearms instructor is qualified to teach? What should he teach? Am I getting good instruction? Because I think nowadays, look, we are in a blessed time of getting firearms instruction. We have 18-year-old kids who have went through more combat experience than anybody else in the past 30 years. We are in a blessed time for that. So we're almost at that point of, is who teaches it more important than what is taught? Because if who teaches it is unqualified and teaches terrible stuff, then everything else doesn't matter.
Well, I think you have to.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think you have to. It's just something that I always did. Whoever teaches you in some kind of way has to be able to perform those duties. You kind of have to show the example. I mean, if I'm telling you to engage a target a specifically way, or if I'm telling you to do something and I cannot do it myself, and I mean, there's some extensions, like when I had back surgery, I was still the boss, I was still in charge, but I couldn't run 4 miles because I just had back surgery. But like I'm sure that Mac, when you teaches classes and you're showing examples, you wouldn't tell people to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. In a way.
No, it goes back to kind of your basic rule of communication. I know this was a common phrase in the Army. I don't know if it is anywhere else. I've been in the Army for the last 7.5 years, so my civilian mind has kind of gone away as far as what's socially acceptable. But they always said, tell me what you're going to tell me, then tell me what you told me. So there's 3 times that I'm essentially saying this to you, whatever it is that I'm trying to teach you. And I kind of structure my classes in the same way. We walk through it. I tell you what you're going to perform with this drill, what you're trying to get out of it, and because that's really the most important part is what you're trying to get out of this drill. Then I demonstrate, so that's when I'm telling you what I'm going to tell you, and then the last part is I'm going to recap with it, and after I'm done demonstrating, I'm going to make sure and illustrate that point again of this is what you're trying to get out of this. This is what you're focusing on. So don't worry about all the extra crap that you have to try and get in there. Just try and get this one fundamental out of this drill. That's all I care about is that you get these or whatever, multiple fundamentals, whatever the core of this drill is, that's what you're getting out of it. So you really reach that point 3 times.
What about this? Because I'm pretty new to the whole. I've been looking online the whole NRA training. What about that type of training? I've never been in any of those classes, but is that like a good starting point?
I took a NRA pistol course when the basic pistol course. I've actually taken it several times, but everybody that I took it from, minus the last guy, everybody that I took this course from was much more qualified than teaching just this basic pistol course. So I actually got a lot out of it, but that's partly because they broke script and went off on their own. The last guy that I took it from, when I was taking it from him. He ended up stopped teaching it and had me teach because I don't want to toot my own horn here, but he was kind of out of his league with that one. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but he was a very sharp guy, but he was fairly new to pistol shooting and fairly new to shooting in general. And so he just really didn't have the resume to support it. Anyways, so the pistol courses can be very cookie cutter depending on the instructor and the way the NRA structures them. But if you have a quality instructor, they can be very good. The other thing is to consider is that what kind of pistol course is it, or what kind of course is it in general. If you're taking the NRA's Pistol 1 course, then it's not going to be suitable for somebody that like you that has 13 years military experience, or Nick, you as well, being an instructor working at a gun shop. You've been around guns. You're not going to get anything from that Pistol 1 course. But it's just one of those check the block things that you got to get as an instructor. You have to have that course.
Well,
I'm not an instructor.
Real quick.
Not an instructor though.
Let me just say real quick, only 11 and a half years. I don't want somebody to get this clip, edit it, take it out, and then call me like stealing valor or something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But no, I'm not a certified firearm instructor, nor do I don't take people down to the range and instruct them.
Yeah. I seen that a lot.
Nick, I thought that you did that a little bit of that work, but either way, well, let's talk about that then. What is a certified firearms instructor?
No, well, and hitting on the NRA thing too is most people get it for the simple fact of if their state requires a class for CCW, there's generally two ways to become a certified instructor. Number one is having the NRA basic certification, or I don't know, it's usually something else. But usually the easiest one, because it's offered everywhere and very often, is the NRA basic handgun, basic pistol. And
right.
So people knock that out first to meet the minimum qualification to be a CCW instructor. Does it add much credibility? If an instructor is hanging their head on I'm NRA certified, and that's it, then I can tell you probably look elsewhere for another firearms instructor.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. And just like you mentioned, like most instructors, they want that course so that way they can offer that course. So your CCW is going to have a lot more reciprocity as far as where you can apply that course to and actually get an Idaho or a Florida CCW or whatever it is. It allows you to have that flexibility. So if you move or whatever happens with you in the future.
Okay, so that makes sense. So pretty much, we need to a brand new person that is trying to get some information. Definitely need to get a reliable gun. I think the main thing will be, and a lot of guys kind of give this advice: go to a range, start shooting different guns. Prioritize yourself so you could buy a decent firearm, and you could buy decent guns for $300 to $400, especially if you get them used. And definitely do some training, and you wouldn't recommend just doing, I wouldn't recommend it either, just doing the $70, 1 day class kind of thing. Definitely go into a 2-day course or something like that where they actually go into details and actually teach you, good stuff kind of thing, right?
No, absolutely. And if you think about it too, it's a long-term investment in that. Even if you have the knowledge, it's an investment in your future, in that if you have to go to court someday because you ended up having to use your firearm and discharge your firearm on somebody, that gives you the ability to say, I was the most qualified I could have been. I had the training. I had everything to be able to back me up to say that I made the best decision I could with the information that I had present. Because that's going to be something that if I'm a lawyer, that I'm going to tear into you about if all you ever have done with your firearm is take a 4-hour course.
Also, sorry to jump in here, one thing to throw out too is if you get bad firearms instruction and that guy tells you something wrong, and based off of what he tells you, you do something, you use your gun in a no-shoot situation, he's not liable. You can't be like, oh, this guy come out and said something, so it's his fault. No. It's not going to happen that way. You are liable for every single round that comes out of your firearm. Doesn't matter what you've been taught, what you've been told, what you think is the right thing to do. And that's very, very important with firearms instruction, because if somebody tells you in this situation you can shoot, and in fact that's not the truth, that's not the law, and you shoot, you are liable. That firearms instructor is pretty much off the hook.
I'm sorry.
Yo.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. A lot of states have laws specifically stating exactly what you were just saying, and in that person is responsible, but they clarify it in their laws saying that the instructor cannot be held responsible, and they even give that instructor the waivers and the waivers that those instructors use for their courses are presented to them from the state, just to be able to for that purpose, to be applied to that purpose.
All right, cool.
If that makes sense, what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah, I kind of cut out for a minute, but I'm back. All right, so we're coming up to 23 minutes. What about some ending statements? If you're a new guy, let's say Nick, if you're a new guy that is getting a gun for the first time, and you got to give him an advice related to one gun and related to training in 15 seconds, what will you tell him?
Go to your local firearms range. They bet you they rent guns. Go rent a bunch of guns. Go shoot a bunch of guns. Don't take the class from that local firearms range. Not that there's any bad guys in there. But then rent the gun, find the one you like, buy it, and then the next thing you do is you go out and find a qualified firearms instructor and take classes.
Okay. What about you, Mac?
I'm gonna actually, and I don't want to step on your toes. I'm gonna counter Nick on that one. Before you buy your pistol, go take the course, because you don't learn how to. You don't buy your car and then learn how to drive. You learn how to drive and then go buy the car. That way, it allows you to make an educated decision on your pistol. My personal opinion, Nick obviously disagrees with that, but that's just my opinion on it.
I sell guns for a living, so it's okay.
Well, and I teach, so I guess there's a little bias there. But anyways, that's just my opinion, is that you need to have the instruction before you buy the pistol. But there are definitely two schools of thought there. Like Nick said, it's very plausible to go and try the guns and figure out what you want to have before you take the course.
All right, cool. All right, guys, definitely. We just, we wanted to put. I mean, we could definitely talk about this for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. We're coming up to 25 minutes almost, and it's just a lot of information. But we wanted to put some information out there for you guys. Something to think about. Something to think about. This different aspects of training and getting a gun and things like that. There's a bunch of videos on my channel that talks about it. There's a bunch of videos on Nick and Mac that talks about it as well. So we definitely appreciate you guys watching. Go ahead and check out the link below for the channel descriptions on Facebook and all that social media stuff. And if you guys got any questions, go ahead and put it in the comment. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, stay tuned for more videos. 2015 is going to be awesome. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and God is in control.